Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are in the middle of our regular MLB baseball betting call that we do each week with Doug Upstone. Right now we're looking at the divisions in the American League, and we're going to cover the interesting AL West. Doug Upstone, thanks for being back with us.
Peter, my pleasure to be back. And the AL West has a lot of good teams that are playing well. So, a lot of good baseball being played here.
All right, let's get down to it. The forecast from last week, a little bit not that good. You should bet on Oakland. They went 14-12, minus 2.2% ROI since the last video. So obviously that's because they were a little bit overvalued, a favorite in some of those games where maybe they shouldn't have been. Bet against Texas, you said 13-13 since our last video, plus 3% ROI. And bet on the LA Angels, and the same thing with them, 12-12, but since they were a favorite, minus 5% ROI since our last video. But since our last video, Seattle and Houston have been absolutely on fire. Houston plus 25% ROI since that video, and that's second best in baseball. Seattle plus 12%. And Oakland, even though Oakland was very mediocre since our last video, they're still the fourth best team overall in the money standings in baseball, plus 8.1%. So I guess let's start with Seattle and Houston. Do you think either, both of those, or neither of those trends continue?
I think Seattle does, and for a couple of different reasons. They've been strong on the road. They're 20-15 plus 9.1 units in that situation. And I look at their pitching staff, and this has been kind of quiet, is that in ERA, on-base percentage, and in OPS, which is on-base percentage plus slugging percentage, they're second in each category in the American League, which is pretty darn impressive. And not many people actually realize that. Another thing that we've talked about in the past, Peter, is I like teams that do well in games that are decided by 4 more runs, and the Mariners are 16-7. So I think that this is a team that is still will continue to be on the rise. I think they'll be in the hunt for a playoff chase, and I think that there's a very strong possibility that people should look at this team to play on them when they're on the road right now.
All right. I don't know. My sense is that that Houston's probably going to be a better bet than Seattle in the next few weeks. You disagree with that?
I don't disagree. Here's what I look at with Houston, and this is really simple to follow. If Houston has where they hit 9 or more hits in a couple of games, you should look to play on them over the next couple of games, because that's been the trend with them. When they have 5 hits or less over a couple of games, look to play against them in the next few.
Okay.
That's been true all season long.
All right, that's interesting. And then what do you think about Oakland? Because even though they had a slight losing ROI since our last video, they did still have a winning record. So that kind of implies that maybe their lines are catching up with them a little bit. On the other hand, they've still been overall a great bet on the year. So what do you think? You think that's a little bit of an aberration, that going forward they might continue to be a positive single-digit ROI team to bet on?
I think that they're probably more likely going to be, because if you notice, the numbers on them have started to creep up a little bit as favorites. The lines that were earlier in typical situations that were 140, maybe 150, are now starting to get 165, 170. Right. So when you take a loss, and you're going to have periods where you're going to lose, it's going to be a poor investment to bet on them. So that does make it a little bit more difficult. This is still the best team in baseball, though, Peter. Their 1.9 run differential is near historic levels. The second best team, for example, is San Francisco at 0.6. So, that's a 1.3 difference just between the top 2 teams. That's just amazing. So This is still a loaded club with a lot of answers. The only thing that's really interesting, though, about them is if you look at their run differential, they should actually be 7 games better than what they are in terms of their record. So it's been a few bullpen mishaps, that have hurt them, but they should have a dominating record of should already have 50 wins at this point of the season. But I don't see how you just on a consistent basis don't play Oakland.
All right. Well, overall in the AL West, 4 out of the 5 teams are actually profitable as of right now. The only team that isn't is Texas, and they're just minus 2.6% ROI. So let's get some forecasts for the AL West over the next few weeks. What do you think? Seattle or Houston, or both or neither profitability?
I don't like Houston. I think they're strictly situational. Mm-hmm. I think Seattle, yes, should continue to be a solid bet. I still like the Angels. I think that they're the type of team that if they start to get a little bit better pitching from their stars, I think that they can turn it around, because their secondary guys have certainly been doing the job. So I think I look for them to be a play-on team. And as I mentioned, I think Oakland, I think you still have to look at them. It just gets a little more dicey when you start looking at 175 or higher lines to bet on them.
All right, so I don't want to put words in your mouth here. So your forecasts are play on Seattle, play on the Angels, and play on Oakland, or play on Oakland only when they're under minus 175, or what?
Yes, I would avoid obviously anything over that. It's just too risky.
Okay, so your official forecast: Seattle play
Yes.
on, Angels
Yep.
play on, and Oakland play on anything under minus 175.
That is correct.
And that's it.
We're good, Peter.
All right, we'll see how this turns out. Thanks so much, Doug Upzone. Talk to you next week.